is waiting on fries. That you don't get it? You don't. What do you mean you don't get waiting on fries?
Hopefully the customer never hears waiting on fries, but all this time on the entree and it's perfectly executed and then you're like,
ready to go.
I forgot to fire the fries.
I just always use that when I forgot to put somebody's order in, and I was like, hey, I'm just waiting on the fries. It's gonna be 2 more minutes. Realistically, I come back 10 minutes with the food.
Exactly. They just know that their food's not there and the server said they're still waiting on fries.
I guess we're just waiting on fries.
Hey guys, I just got a notification that it's time for Waiting on Fries podcast to record.
Yo, we're doing it, bro.
But before we get into it, I'm still really excited about NewYorkPrimeBeef.com.
NewYorkPrimeBeef.com.
That's pretty throwback.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in a while.
What's the code?
Code is fries15. That's fries 15. Get 15% off your whole order at NewYorkPrimeBeef.com. $200 order or more gets you free shipping on the best steaks. You can get burgers, some sausages, some hot dogs.
Wagyu. Awesome.
And the crab cakes. Don't forget about the crab cakes.
And the crab cakes promotion.
Yo, Nooms loves the crab cakes.
The crab cakes are good. You can't go wrong with crab cakes.
Exactly.
All right,
you got to get a little surf and turf action going.
But I digress. NewYorkPrimeBeef.com. Promo code fries15 at checkout.
Guys, did you see this DoorDash video? The video of the upset delivery driver?
No, explain this to me.
This woman is working as a DoorDash driver. She delivers food to a customer. The customer pays her for the food, but instead of that being the end of the transaction and of the interaction...
Wait, that's what's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
They pay for food, and then they drop the food off. You get the food.
You eat the food.
What
but
happened?
No. So this woman stood outside and demanded that the customer come outside and increase the tip that he had already given her.
What?
And luckily this was all caught on a Ring door cam, so... it was saved for the internet to see forever and ever.
What is a Ring? Why does everybody have a Ring door cam?
I kind of want one.
Literally, everybody has a Ring door
It's
cam.
obviously for reasons like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
I think
you can screen your guests to your house.
Yeah, and I think you also want to
Nice.
make sure that nobody's stealing your packages, maybe.
That too, yeah.
I think these things come in handy in those senses.
Probably helps prevent break-ins.
So what did Anoom? What did this lady say?
Oh man.
Well, she just demanded that the guy come outside and speak to her, and the guy reasonably asked why, and she said, "Well, are you aware of the tip that you gave me?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, it's $8." She's like, "Yeah, I don't think you know that that's not enough." That's outrageous, right?
Wait, she's complaining about an $8
She's
tip?
complaining about an $8 tip. Number one, $8 is a pretty decent tip for
$8 is a solid delivery.
Yeah. It didn't look like she was carrying multiple bags of food, so I think it was a standard order for 1 or 2 people.
Here's the problem, though. You have a company that is trying to get so big so quickly, and I think you discussed it last time where DoorDash came to you at some point, and they were kind of doing some odd things to get business at one point. And
yeah,
and now as they're trying to grow, now they're a publicly traded company, all eyes on them, all their financials are out in the open for everybody to see. The problem is that as they're growing now as this national company, they need employees. And are they just taking on anybody that signs up? Almost like Uber did at first. You remember when you could get picked up in an Uber and the car was green or the car was purple? They didn't care what color the car was.
I still don't think they care what color the car is.
Have you seen another color Uber that's not black or gray?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You guys in a lot of Ubers right now?
White.
Yeah.
All right.
Red.
We're gonna further research this. I'm gonna post something on the
Or
Instagram.
red even.
Yeah.
But
I see some red ones.
with that, just signing people up and not really going through maybe their history. I don't know, are people unstable? You don't know who's coming to deliver your food. And this is one of Just's biggest fears and why internally he's got his own delivery service.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you use supplementally.
So
right?
it's not why we have our own delivery service. We had the delivery service first.
Correct.
But it's why we would prefer people use our own delivery service.
Got it. And with that, though, all right, so this lady rolls up after driving however far. She made it sound like it was pretty far.
Yeah.
She made it sound like it was deep.
She said, yeah,
was
she
traffic.
didn't say exactly how far she
was like,
traveled.
how far?
She mentioned the 2 towns, but
It wasn't 4 towns,
if
and
you
I
do
know
a little
this.
digging, yeah,
Correct.
It's about a 12-minute drive.
Yep. But
apparently.
if you're sitting during traffic time on a highway, you're really eating it, especially in Long Island.
But don't you know where you're going before you pick up the order?
You
I
know.
believe so.
But
So I don't understand. So she's a DoorDash. Well, I don't know if we.
A DoorDasher, that's
It
what
was
they call 'em.
DoorDash?
Yeah,
It's confirmed?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's DoorDash, right? So she picks up the order. Don't they know where they're going and how much the tip is prior to taking the order?
I believe so.
Prior to picking it up?
Yeah.
So
There's
why
no
would
option.
she pick it up? Like they don't have to
you
pick
can
up the
choose
order.
to decline an
so
order.
if she looks at it and says, "Oh, it's so far for $8. I don't think it's worth it."
You
Why
can't
did
decline.
she take it? Just to,
No, you can't decline. Same with
Yeah.
Uber. You don't decline.
But can't you see before you pick it up?
No, otherwise people would just pick and choose who they pick up.
Well,
like I'm
so
only
I
picking up
did
the
some
best
digging and I
tips.
was looking on the DoorDash Reddit, and you can pick and choose. There's people who go around and only deliver, the orders that seem financially reasonable.
How
for
can you
them.
even get away with that?
Yeah, because you can decline orders because
Yeah.
guys will come here sometimes and they come early. It says order be ready in 20 minutes. They're here in 10, and then they're
like,
say,
I don't
"Oh,
wanna
I'm
wait."
picking up for Joe," and I'm like, "It's another 10 minutes." They don't want to wait, so they just dump the order, and someone else comes picks it up. So you could
What?
definitely do that.
Yeah. That's
right.
actually happened to me before. We ordered food from this place. It was taking a long time to get made. The guy showed up. The food wasn't ready. He called us, and he said that it wasn't ready. Do you want me to wait? We're like, yeah, wait. And like 5 minutes later, he just canceled it.
That's absurd.
No, they don't can't. Well,
Well,
that's
no.
a different thing. They can also, but I'm saying they just drop the order. It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
get
let somebody
canceled.
else pick
Someone
it up.
else
Yeah,
picks it
no.
up.
This guy was able to cancel the order. We had to go pick up our food.
I think a lot of these people that are doing these odd jobs right now to make ends meet and pick up a little bit of extra cash, they maybe don't even come from a world of, customer service or hospitality in which, we've done this our whole lives, essentially, where they don't understand even that that's not okay. Like, even if you're
honestly,
angry,
I've seen this one kid. He's like got to be 12 years old, and he's picking up Uber Eats orders.
that's awesome. Get money early. Whose social security card
No,
are
but
you
it-
using to do this job?
Agreed, hustle all day, but it talks into your point that you're making right now that there's no way this kid has experience of dealing with hospitality at all.
Yeah, didn't we just also say something with the kid that was delivering service? He was doing deliveries and it was raining and asked the person to come out and get it from
Yes,
them,
that was,
like in the middle of the
that
rain.
was a former driver.
So it's
Emphasis on the former.
not everybody's cut out to do these things that are very hospitable. And for you running up to a door and demanding $8 when you know damn well that order, even if it was for like just two people, that order was probably $60 as it was.
If that much.
Yeah, correct, if that much. And
So what? Well, I mean, what happened with this lady? Did she?
no, I don't think we got follow up.
Yeah, I believe that they said that DoorDash cut ties with the woman. But
No, I mean, did he give her more tip? Did she leave
no,
the food?
she ended up taking the food back.
She took the food back.
She took
Yeah,
the
it was
food
the
back to the
store.
restaurant. Yeah,
so she
was so upset with the tip.
complained about the tip,
yeah.
and then
Then drove back. to the
wasn't
restaurant
happy with
food.
his response. So she left and took the food.
Yeah.
That is wild.
That's
That
like
must
the
mean that she
equivalent-
also took the money too, right? I don't think she left the money on the doorstep.
Well, I'm sure that the guy complained and they canceled DoorDash
Yeah.
and they had to rectify that in some way. But that's just wild. That's the equivalent of an employee just walking out in the middle of a shift.
Yeah, and that's something that happens all the time too. And what do you do if an employee just walks out in the middle of the shift?
I say bye.
Yeah.
How do you know that they actually walked out and didn't just go blow off some steam?
Typically, if they walk out the door, that's them walking out.
Well, that's that's a
How do you not know?
perspective. That's a perspective of no. So slow down here, right? Because not every.
I mean, we don't have a lot of employees hanging around that we don't need. So if someone left, we
I mean,
clearly see the-
we're clearly speaking about the before
Yeah.
times.
You would know, yeah, I
Yeah.
get that. But I think about all the countless bars that we've worked in, or I've worked in, where it's you are kind of your own boss. Yeah, there's people that are up the chain, but they're not actually there, like telling you what to do. Your job is to take care of the guests, the customers, and
But you probably
get
don't.
the drinks going.
You probably don't walk. People probably don't walk out of that though.
No, I've done that a few. I've done that a few times, like blow off steam in the middle of a crazy shift where there's layers of people in front of the point of the bar,
And you just
just-
walk
or you
out.
gotta walk.
You just
Yo,
leave.
cover
went
my
home?
section. I'm out and walk out and take a little breather.
Oh,
take,
you're
kinda
taking
take
a
a
break
breather.
though. But that's different. Than
Is it like a
walking
scheduled
out.
break or like
There's
in
no
the,
scheduled break in bars. That doesn't exist. This is that's a restaurant thing.
Well,
so there's differences that
We
happen
can get
out
into
here.
that. There is if you're union, but
Fucking union. That would be great.
Yeah.
Find a union. Can I get in the bar
But no,
union?
so-
but
Wait,
what you're
let's
talking
not
about
go
is
too far away
different.
from this.
I'm talking about literally walking out and not coming back.
yeah.
But the question is you only know that they're not coming back until they don't show up to the end of the shift anymore.
well,
no?
if what you're saying is like if you walk out and take a break, but you're communicating with somebody saying like, "Hey, listen, I'll be back."
like maybe the guy next to me where I go, I'm out of here, without saying I'm coming back.
Well, for the most
Well, so
part,
if
if
you
you're
did
taking
that-
a break, you should say, "I'm taking a break," or you probably at least went to like a fellow server or a bartender and was like, "Watch my section for a minute. I'm gonna step out," right?
or step out and not step back in. Possibly, who knows?
yeah,
It's
but if
questionable.
you tell, but what happens is, right? You say, "Yo, I gotta grab a stogie or something," and you tell your server or bartender like, "Watch this section for a minute.
Yeah, and it's like
I
a
gotta get a
communicated
breather."
absence.
if someone's looking around saying, "Where'd Jay go? Where'd Jay go?" Somebody knows. Somebody said, "Oh, yeah, to take." He stepped out for a
He
minute.
looked super pissed.
I
and
will
he
tell
walked
you a
out the front
story.
door.
We had a dishwasher here once.
I was gonna tell
Nooms
the
knows
story
where I'm
too.
going.
Yeah.
Is this the one you were about to tell the same story?
This is a
we
good
had
story.
a dishwasher once, and was it 4th of July? It was.
It was either 4th of July or Memorial Day.
Yeah, it was one of those holiday weekends, crazy, like dumb busy.
There was the street fair going on outside, so I know I was outside.
Oh, so it was a block party night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't a holiday. It was just a normal. It was a block party, so it was crazy busy. Dude just like gets his stuff and walks out. Like we saw
Completely
him
disappears.
grab his backpack. Well, some people saw him.
I didn't see him get
apparently.
his backpack. I just looked over at the dish pit, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, and he was
wasn't
gone, and it was busy, so we didn't like stop and look. Maybe he just, maybe he went to the bathroom or whatever.
No.
But then after a little while, there was dishes piling up, and we're like, "Oh, anybody see where what's his name went?"
And there wasn't really time to discuss it at that point.
Yeah,
we just
there
started
wasn't
washing
time.
dishes.
and he never came back. He just like left.
And I think it's
So I mean, when
I'm
you
not
do
gonna say
that,
it's
there's no
different.
question. There's no question about it.
Yeah, like you're
yeah.
gone.
I'm not gonna say it's
I think he
different.
quit.
And if you're holding up
If he
like
did
a
it, he's
pinnacle
fired.
foundation of a place, like people are gonna notice that you just disappeared.
Yeah, but I mean, like if a bartender disappears, you're gonna notice.
Well,
You would
there's
notice
no
if a bartender
rules,
just
right?
left and never came back.
Bartending in a bar is
There's
kind
no
of
rules.
Wild Westish. Like there's rules, but there's not rules.
But you
to
can't
some
leave
extent.
and never come back.
So you could maybe leave and you're furious because something happened, and you'll cool off and you come back after a while and like.
You can't if you're the only person behind the bar.
Well, then that's a different
That's what I'm
situation.
saying.
Like you
But
can't
you're-
just be
what
the
you're
only
You
saying
one.
can't
is-
just leave.
What you're saying is different than what I'm saying. This is the only dishwasher, and he left in the middle of service.
Yeah, so the dishes start piling
Right?
up.
It
That gets
wasn't
noticed
like
quickly.
in between service. It was like 7:00.
Yeah, like
and he
plates were
would just
coming
left.
into the kitchen, and people needed
And he
plates.
also didn't come back. Right? There wasn't
No
another
communication
dishwasher to like pick it up or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're talking about a situation if you're one of two or one of three bartenders. It's just like putting a little more strain on the other bartenders for a minute, and then you come back and catch up or whatever.
So look at the gray area though too. What if they're like a great employee and they just had this breakdown where they just like walked out? You're
I have
severing
never-
ties right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk out in the middle of service, don't say nothing. So
Like, that's
you're
it.
done. I don't care.
What? Yeah, but think about maybe your best employee that you
My
had.
best employee wouldn't
wouldn't
do
do
that.
that exactly.
No, that's not the hypothetical. The hypothetical is take your all-star employee
they'd be
that's helped
fired.
you with every single thing,
They'd be 100%.
and they have a mid-breakdown. You're
Outside-
not even going to question
yeah, no, you're
afterwards
fired.
and
If
be
you, have,
like,
if you have a breakdown with no communication and you just leave,
Yeah.
like that's
You're
it.
fired. And don't come
Because
back ever.
I no longer can count on you for anything.
Yeah, you're fired.
tough crowd, guys.
I was very professional. You're fired.
It's very black and white.
It was very professional.
Outside of, like, the only exception is if something.
Like catastrophic happened. But either
yeah.
way, you'd most likely communicate like some shit went down. I gotta go.
Yeah,
you know?
or you're fired now, and then tomorrow when you tell me about the catastrophic event that occurred, then maybe we
Yeah.
can talk about it.
Right. That's the only way.
It's the only
It's
way.
the only way. But otherwise, you're fired.
Anybody at Smokehouse listening here, take those notes, okay?
You know what, though? They always come back for the paycheck.
They always come back.
Well,
with the
you
last
got
check.
it.
He came back, that same guy, he came back like Tuesday we got paid, and he walks in, he's like, here, pick up my check. Pick up my check.
I believe he only worked that one day too.
And
That was his
people
first
people
day.
always go, oh, that guy's never coming back. And we're like, we'll see him on Tuesday.
Yeah, he'll be here. What about the other issue that we're having right now too, with the tables and people hanging out for extended amounts of time when we kind of have to flip some things out here?
So this is fresh for me because last Saturday I had we had some bar guests and we had one table. I got here at 3:15 on Saturday afternoon, and both the bar guests and table had already been here. I guess they opened their checks slightly before I walked in the door. And at 9:45, when we did the curfew last call, I had to ask those patrons to leave. The same ones are there, so they were there for 7 hours.
Safe to say they're fans of Smokehouse.
I don't know if they're fans of Smokehouse or they just
Got a little too comfortable.
sat there or whatever. I mean, they clearly were enjoying themselves.
Exactly. That's what I
But
mean.
the issue at hand was they were there for 7 hours, and for the most part, in the real world, we could absorb something like that. If one person parks at the bar for all night, we have other bar seats. If one table is camping all night, we have some other seats we can work around. But being in the 50% capacity that we're already in, that kind of defeats all of our workable seating area. So all that real estate becomes really important. So I got into a situation where, I was able to manage and put some people on a wait, and get people in and out the door, but I felt like I could have turned. I don't feel like I know that I could have turned the bar seat probably 4 times during that service, and I could have turned the table at least twice.
That's a lot of potentially lost revenue that you're talking about.
Yeah,
And that's tough. Well, was this a Sunday?
it was a Saturday night.
It was a Saturday night.
And the checks were not reflective
Of the time
of the
spent.
time. So there was a 4 top, and there for 7 hours, and their check was like $200.
People on the bar side,
Be like $700.
people on the bar side on the like sports bar type of spaces on Sundays, feels like new blood would always be like really excited to work football Sunday. Like, oh, it's football Sunday. Let's go. Gonna crush it. And then when everything's said and done, you realize you didn't really make that much money. You also didn't really do anything either. Once the place fills up, it's filled up. And then everyone's sitting for like 4 hours straight. You can only drink so many beers. You can only eat so much food. So you're really just sitting watching the game. I hate working football. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. Unless you just want to watch the game, right? And then you're getting paid to watch the game, kind of. Because
These are the shifts that Jay would have just walked out on.
yeah, I would have.
Yeah,
I
you
would have
just
easy
walked
walked out. No, but I paid my dues and done these shifts until I could pass it off to somebody else that thought it was lucrative.
Like, walk out.
But for the most part, like, yeah, all right, you're getting more out of business into a bar, but also you can only flip something so much. You know, what's the average person over a 4-hour period of time spending in the bar? Maybe $100, maybe a little bit more than that. If they're getting shots.
Yeah, over 4 hours, somewhere like that. I mean, you can. It depends on what they're doing too. Like if you're sitting there for a while and you're out like having drinks. If you're here at 3 o'clock and you're still here at 9:30, I would assume you ate both a late lunch and a dinner at some point, right? Like order another round of food. Like if you're at that long, I mean, and that's a dramatic.
Do you know what this specific check was?
Yeah, it was $220.
Okay.
And like they had stopped. Like I was watching the
But
table.
that's for 7 hours.
But you know, like,
6 hours,
but like,
6 hours?
yeah,
Seven.
but
4 people.
4 people.
Oh, okay.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, and what had happened was they basically came in for a late lunch, and then we're just hanging out, talking, and like enjoying each other's company for the whole night. But they weren't. Like you would almost think that they were excessively drinking or something, and I would have had to cut them off for being intoxicated, but they were not. They were just.
No, I had to keep running over
Chilling.
and see if I could get them more drinks. Like,
So my question became: Is it impolite or rude or disrespectful or unhospitable to move these people off a table at this point and say like, hey, you've been here for 6 hours. You gotta.
I think after 6 hours, it's warranted.
So that's what we fell on the fact that especially if you came during lunch service and now it's dinner service, it would not be out of the ordinary to approach a table and say, hey, just to let you know, we have some dinner reservations for this table. We are going to need it, in the next 20 minutes or so. If you guys could try to wrap it up. And then at the bar, because the bar is a little different, I think it's
Things a little more fluid at the bar.
It's a little more fluid, and I think people expect the leniency of being able to just like hang out at the bar for a while if they want, if they're watching whatever's on the TV, without judging. What we did was we just put little cards,
Your time
similar
is
to.
up.
Not your time's up, but it's just like a reminder card, and it says, due to the current seating capacities, we would appreciate you keeping your visits at 90 minutes so that we could try to accommodate other guests that may be waiting for a seat.
Those go up automatically now?
Yeah, we just put them in front of the seats.
That's polite.
We don't say anything about it, and we also don't, like, at 90 minutes, we don't come and say, 90 minutes is up, you got to get out.
Yeah.
It's just a little, like,
Don't be a trash person.
subconscious,
Correct.
try to remember that you're...
I'm with that a lot. And I think that most places, too, that I was seeing were doing 90 minutes and making it very apparent that it was 90 minutes at the hostess stand
Yeah.
over the
But
course of
that's
the entire
part-
summer.
That's the part I didn't want to get into.
I know.
Like, yo, you got 90 minutes. They come, yo, you got 10 minutes. Get out of here. I
Yeah,
think if
that
you
sucks.
just kind of manage it correctly,
Yeah. Totally.
and at 7 o'clock you can go. If table's been here at 3 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. Okay, you can go up to them and say, hey, I got some reservations for dinner. I'm gonna need your table, but you're really only gonna get you can't do that at 8:30 because now we're only talking about one more turn. So you're really just talking about that dinner service that you could do that at the table.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're not going to turn it more. If you get it seated at 7:30, you're not really going to turn it one more time before the curfew.
Yeah.
I agree to that. Anyway, we've got Jessica Hadjstylianos. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you're pretty close.
We're gonna talk a little bit differently. You know, we've been so heavy talking about chef work and things in the restaurants that we forget that there's so many other sides of this industry that exist.
What do you mean? There's other sides?
Yeah, there's way more sides, dude. There's so many sides to this.
just
There's
can't-
life outside the kitchen?
He can't see outside the kitchen, so he
I
doesn't
can't.
even realize there's anything out there.
There isn't.
but-
I give you food and you eat it though, right?
Yeah, precisely what you're saying.
Exactly.
But there are so many other points of this hospitality industry. And where do you think we get all our booze from, guys?
From
Magical.
me.
Yeah.
There you go.
She's been supplying booze all over this tri-state area, probably plus more over the course of how long now?
It's going to be 10 years.
It's crazy. What a journey. And let everybody know, you know, right now you're working for Moet Hennessy. In fact, you've been essentially for years now. What do you actually do with the company?
So I am currently the New York State manager for Core Bubbles. So that's essentially the foundation of our brand. So I work for the distributor is Empire Merchants. So, you know, we have two massive distributors in New York State. There's Southern and there's Moet. Southern and Empire. And then, you know, there's some smaller ones, Winebow and O-Pee-Chee. During the summer with the pandemic, where I was responsible for all things Diageo and Moet Hennessy, Diageo left and went over to Southern Wines and Spirits, which was a really, really big hit for us. But we decided we were going to just stick together, and we formed something called our Freedom Division, which is the first ever Moet Hennessy exclusive division in the United States. So all things that fall under that, Belvedere Vodka, Hennessy, obviously, Glenmorangie, a handful of wines. And then my role is Core Bubbles, so all things Chandon, which is our sparkling wine, sister company to Moet, all things Moet, and all things Veuve Clicquot.
So it's almost like you've converted into a smaller portfolio that I guess would be better managed. Sometimes things get too big and it's very hard to manage everything with all the logistics that occur. But to say, all right, cool, you could leave and do your own thing. We're going to stay here as one solid unit and we're going to
Exactly.
command things. So you don't necessarily... Do you wind up losing a handful of accounts in that transition?
You do, and you know, and it was definitely a process for us to sit through and figure out what accounts, you know, we were keeping. Obviously, when you're working with a company for so long, you have relationships, and a lot of this business is relationships. But unfortunately, some of the accounts, because of the type of portfolio, they just didn't fit. You know, sadly, they just didn't fit into the portfolio because they're not doing champagne by the glass, or you know, they're just serving well brands. So it was definitely a tough challenge to really sit and look over the course of years where the business was, and also the pandemic, you know, looking to see what accounts are still open, what accounts are even viable to help our new division survive.
I could imagine that kind of being a nightmare, looking up what still exists. Like, where do you go to find that information up? Is somebody's job just manually calling up every single restaurant on Google to see if they exist?
So we did some work, you know, and it was essentially a spreadsheet. It was an Excel spreadsheet, and it was, you know, you can't really just go up to your buyer in a restaurant and say, hey, how's business going? You know, are you guys still open? What, are you doing takeout? Because it's insensitive, you know, so you really had to tippy-toe and go lightly with it. But I always, when I was managing my team at the time, when the pandemic first hit, I said, listen, you don't even have to leave your house, is the reality. Social media, digital, everything you can possibly need for this sheet, you just go on your cell phone, you go on your laptop, your iPad, you look up what are the hours, like call, hey, what are your hours? Are you doing delivery? You know, work smart, not hard, kind of thing.
And that's clever also. Like you just said, you don't want to just go hit guys in the face if they are, you know, on their last legs here. Where are you still operational? And putting a spreadsheet together now, say, what area are you really covering here? Is this now all across U.S.?
As far as my particular role in general?
As far
or-
as the brand in general, where people are putting together a spreadsheet like this, everyone
It's
must
internal,
be managing
so
a
it's
different
just
territory?
it was just for Metro New York.
Okay.
At the time, you know, once Diageo moved over to Southern and we became just Freedom, a lot of the we have different teams. So we have an upstate team, which is essentially Putnam County North, up to like borderline, you know, kind of the rest of the state, and then you have your Metro.
Putnam.
You have your Metro New York team. So Metro New York is the boroughs, Westchester, and Long Island. So our in-house team is all Metro New York. And then with my role, I do the management, the business management for the state.
So in something that's so largely scaled like this, like, let's break down for someone young in this business what the distributor's role is, because that's kind of the top tier. you're sitting here, every distributor has their own little portfolio of whatever they sell. And then from there, they disperse that into various sections or areas or territories.
Territories,
Is really
correct.
the word I'm looking for. I was going to get to it. Usually Justin helps me. But from there...
I'm letting you rock today.
Yeah, okay. From then going into the territories and that sub-breakdown is where reps come in, where typically, or more old times, they're on the floor, they're on the ground, they're showing up to places.
They're our first line of defense, the reps. You know, they're the ones, they're in the accounts every single day. You know, if you look at it from a restaurant perspective, the first person you see when you walk into a restaurant is usually your hostess. That's your first line. So that's our reps, essentially. They're the ones that are in the accounts every day. They're the ones doing the surveys. They're getting the orders. They're doing the tastings. They're doing the trainings for the most part. From there, that's kind of where you would start coming into the company. You know, there's other roles where if you don't want to go into sales driven, we have something called account development specialists, and they're more behind the scenes. You know, sometimes they're helping to create these spreadsheets. They're helping to create menus, feature cards, and doing more of the visibility component and the qualitative stuff. They're there to assist the sales team and make sell sheets for the products.
Are these graphic guys also then?
We have a graphics team. That's a whole other department. There's merchandising teams. But from the sales perspective, you have your reps. From there, you have a manager. A rep usually will have their territory. So, if you're in New York City, as much as it would be nice to be in one particular area of the city, it's usually spread around so that you can have, a variety of accounts. You don't want to just have dive bars or nightclubs. You can't survive. You can't survive on that. You don't want to just have a giant account like, let's say, the Tao Group, because if that's the only thing under your base, God forbid anything happens to that restaurant group, your entire run is wiped out. So there really is a
eggs
mix.
in a basket.
And you want to have a really good skill set. You want to be able to speak to high-end buyers, but you want to be able to be well-versed with the dive bars as well, and nightclubs, whatever it is. So from there, then you have a manager. You'll have one manager for that territory. And usually a manager has anywhere from 4 to 6 reps under them. From there, you'll go and you'll have a director, and the director's in charge of the team of managers for that specific division. Within each division, that breaks down with what supplier you're with. So my division, we are the Freedom division. We only work with Moet Hennessy. Prior to becoming Freedom, we were the United division, and prior to that, Atlantic Wine and Spirits. But it was always Moet Hennessy and Diageo. And then the other side of Empire, we have sides.
Yep.
The other side is, you have Empire Wine, Empire Spirits. And those guys represent, some of them, hundreds of different smaller suppliers. You have Brown Forman on the other side, your Jack Daniels, your Stolies of the world. So it really does kind of mix up. And then from there you go into...
How about the
BC.
smaller brands?
A lot of those, some of the smaller brands, it tends to be on the other side of the house. They don't get as much of attention, how your goals are set up for the year. It's the supplier, the GM, they make the directors, they have all that conversation with suppliers. These are the goals for the year. How are we going to break down those goals so that you meet your sales quota for the year? Luckily, I've been blessed the past almost 10 years, so work with some pretty heavy duty brands. So those brands, when I was a rep, they got you in the door, whether someone wanted to talk to me or not, because, Joe's been my rep for 25 years. He does my orders. I'm like, yeah, but you need Kettle One or, back then. But you need this, and at least it got your foot in the door, because you're not going to them with like, hey, I have this like orangeade flavored tequila. That's where you hit them a little bit later.
So I'm glad you touched on that, because that always confused me with the different reps, especially when we so in our timeline for the restaurant, we were just a takeout restaurant for a while, and then we transitioned and opened the bar in a full service restaurant. So I had to kind of learn how to deal with the different reps and the distributors and all that stuff. I had some experience beforehand, but when we opened, just a couple of years, but in between managing the country club or the bar manager at the country club, and then actually having doing the bar again. So things changed. And I remember, and I won't name names, but let's say Rich was our rep, right?
Oh, Richie.
I was just making up names, right? So
Me too.
let's say Rich was our rep, and I would speak to him, and then someone else would come in and say, "Oh, I'm let's say Ralph from whatever distributor."
Oh, Ralph.
Oh, poor
Do you guys
Ralph.
actually know these people?
No, go ahead.
All right.
Making the story more
Come on.
interesting.
So, he'd come in and say, "Well, I want to try to sell you this stuff," and then I would it would happen sometimes on the same day where I would speak to Rep A, and then this guy would come in who I never
And they're
met
all
before.
from the same distributor.
Same distributor, and then be like, "Oh, I'm your guy now." And then I would call the guy I just spoke to an hour ago. Like, this guy just came in and said he's my guy now. He's like, "No, I'll talk
So
to
you have
him.
multiple guys.
This is my guy."
Yeah.
No, the guy. I'm like, I
You
don't
have
know.
multiple, and
Just
it's
send me tequila.
yeah, and you have multiple, and again, it goes into what division they're from and what portfolio they work for. So if you're in Freedom Division, you're only pushing Freedom Division brands. You know, if you're with Moet Hennessy, you're only pushing those brands because that's where you make your money. These guys are 100% commission, so there's no base salary. So if they don't sell, they're not getting paid. You know, so I want to make sure I'm selling you.
ABCs.
I want to make sure, you know, if I'm working for Moet
So
Hennessy,
they get no salary.
no salary.
Wow.
So it's
intense.
it's a little bit intense, where we should work together as a family and be like, oh, you're looking for a whiskey. I don't have that. This is the whiskey I have in my portfolio, but my colleague, he has X, Y, and Z. Sometimes the reps don't. It's very cutthroat, and they don't want to work that way. Sometimes you find a rep that you vibe with, and you guys help each other out. I always looked at it as like, listen, like at the end of the day, we're Empire. Like we have to work together, knock out the other guy, knock out Southern, knock out OPG, knock out Winebow, and let's just look good and lock and load this store. And it's really finding your groove with the rep on the other side of the house. But again, it's commission, so it gets a little messy and a little like, I was a rep.
That's what I felt when I
There's
was
some
getting
fun
that on
stories
the
out
same
there.
day. I was like, what is happening right now? You guys are on.
And they know, because their
Right.
job as a manager, I've done that role as well. As a manager, you give them, hey, I need you to make a route schedule. And on that route card, it shows the name of the place, the account number, who is the buyer contact information, what day they order generally, and what day is the best day to see them. God forbid the rep is out sick or something happens, and now the manager needs to go in and fill in for them, or another rep needs to fill in temporarily. All that information is there, and you're not losing any time with the account.
Go back to, and I'm going to say this because being behind the bar, over the course of years, I've watched guys working alongside me throw in the towel on the bar side and go, all right, I'm going to join the rep side. I'm going to go sell for this company or this company. And it seems like...
I've seen one of these rep managers steal one of my bartenders.
It seems...
I'm not kidding. And then I stopped ordering from his company.
You poach, we've talked about this.
Yeah, I poach, but I don't like being poached
You don't
from.
like being
called
poached, yeah.
So, but time and time again, you see them leave to go do rep work and say, all right, I'm getting out of this business. I'm going to go on the other side of this business instead. And you see them work maybe for like a month and a half, and then they're just done with it. So my real question is, obviously you were there, you were doing rep work. It's hard in some senses, I could imagine.
Extremely hard.
But when you start, do you actually start with some minor book of business?
Yes and no. So when you start, you're given your territory. So it's like, these are your accounts. They're viable accounts. This is what your territory is worth. Again, it's 100% commission. So your territory may be worth, let's say, $80,000 to make numbers easier. But commission, you're getting taxed at 50%. So technically, that $80,000 is now really $40,000. But if you're coming from working behind the bar or at a restaurant, you're used to that cash flow every single day, where now you're getting a commission check every month. You're getting a weekly draw to kind of offset a little bit. But it's difficult. And I think a lot of times going from one, you have to be hungry. It's our job to show the fun, the tastings, the events, the drinks, the competitions. It's our job. You guys get to see all the fun stuff, but there's so much.
Why is that so important to
behind.
be shown, though? Is it because sex sells? Just we have this argument.
That's your thing, dude.
No,
Sex definitely sells.
So I mean,
He's
there's
so
an
happy you just said
allure
that.
of what we see on our side of things, where it's like, oh, Jess is out partying over here, just running up a tab on the company card, and obviously you're doing business.
Yeah, I think it does sell, but I think at the end of the day, you also want people to have a good memory of your brand. You want to sell that brand, and it's, if I'm out with my friends and I'm like, what, let's go, guys, we're going to go have dinner. Like, now that I'm doing champagne, hey, I'm doing a dinner at, I don't know, Modern. We're in Mamaroneck. I'm going to Modern. We're going to do a dinner. We're going to have some champagne. Like, my job
Or
as
smokehouse.
is to entertain you guys. Like,
Same.
to make sure that
tried.
you guys have a good time, and that when you leave, now you're going out, and when you're out with your friends, you see every time you see Moet or you see Veuve Clicquot, you're gonna remember, oh my gosh, we had such a great dinner when we were there. We had such an event. Like, it's kind of that same perception. A fancy drink going out is going to sell more than just the regular drink in a cup, because people are like, what is that? Plating, the way you plate your food. Yeah, you can put French fries on a plate, but if you're jazzing it up and it looks like this beautiful golden tower of fries, sprinkled with cheesy, dusty goodness, like people are going to want.
It's an extra $3 or $4.
Exactly. So it's kind of when we do these events, we're very, very specific. Our supplier's very specific as to what the criteria is, because we want to make sure that our brands are shown in a certain light. And then get the gatekeepers, our bartenders. We want you guys pouring our brands.
Well, of course that, yeah. And the guys that just come on, they just start, they transition from the bar side, they get their book of business that they could go hit this guy, hit this guy. They maybe know how much they typically order possibly from that list that you just explained a second ago. And is it then kind of up to them to build their own book of business
Absolutely.
within their territory?
Absolutely. So you always want to grow. They have their monthly and their annual goals of growth. We say, grow 7%. In my mind, I knew, okay, this is what my bills are. This is the lifestyle I like. This is how much money I need to bring. And it's a formula, and yeah, I can go and be an order taker. Okay, I know that every 3 weeks you order 6 bottles of Kettle One, but I'm going to come to you and be like, listen, I know you do 6 bottles rough, in a month. In a year, you're doing X, Y, and Z. This is where your savings, if you buy in bulk, this is where your savings can be. And then you would say, I really don't need all of that vodka. What am I going to do with it? I'm like, listen, you're saving $10 a bottle. That's $1,200. If you buy the 10K deal, it's math. It's a formula. With that $1,200, think of what else you can buy. That's essentially free booze for you for your next month. On average, you're ordering $1,200, let's say. You're saving that money. And then my job would be as a rep to come in and say, okay, listen, let's train your staff. We're going to train your staff. We're going to do cocktail features. Let's help move it through. What do you need me to do to help you move through that product within legal compliance? That's a whole nother.
When you have a book of business and you're saying that you would expect them to build out the book, take White Plains, for example, and for those listening further out of town, it's a small building city. How many people are in White Plains during the day? Like 500,000, was it? Close? Something like
I have
that?
no grasp of.
That was the last known number that I
It's
had.
like 500,000 people.
I didn't just make this up.
Yeah, you did.
No,
There's like 70,000, 60,000 people
Residents.
in White Plains. Yeah.
but during the working day, it used to go up far bigger.
Not 500,000. Like,
We'll
for
double-
instance,
we'll
Yonkers.
double-check the numbers.
Yonkers is the biggest city in Westchester, and their population is 250,000, and their day pop is like $1.50, and that's the biggest city.
Okay, so take this growing city.
Population
and
is 58,000.
That's population. I'm talking about people
Yeah,
working.
look at the
within.
day pop. Is that on there?
So,
But-
with that said, though, a town that's kind of built out already, where the business is there, and it's not likely to see many bars pop up in that area, how big could these territories be where somebody could continue building out their book?
It's the world's your oyster with it. It's your business.
And there's no stepping on somebody else's foot if...
No, you have your brand. So, if let's say someone's pouring Mum, my job is I want to go in there. I want to knock Mum out by the glass. I want them, I'm going to ask questions. Hey, do you move through? How much Mum do you move through? Is your clientele ordering a lot of champagne by the glass? Where is that opportunity? Do you mind me asking, roughly what price you pay me? Well, I know what they pay because we have access through Beverage Media and 750. I want to ask those type of questions. Do you have a big champagne crowd? And then I want to go and knock Mum out and get Moet by the glass. So now I've grown my business in that account because I knocked out the competition. Moet has a much better name than Mum. People know Moet. People associate Moet with celebrations and parties. So it's a little bit different. When you start having something that is a name brand on your list, that cocktail sells itself, that drink sells itself on its own just because of the name. And then if you start doing things to make it Instagrammable and fit for social media and doing the trainings, you'll start seeing and generating those sales.
Are there baseline numbers you can identify to say, I walk into a account, they're pouring X amount of, whatever kind of champagne or whatever. That's X amount. Is there a baseline number you say it's not worth my time to try in here?
It's always worth your time because
Okay.
you don't know.
Like,
you
we
don't
don't
know.
sell any champagne, for instance.
Yeah. So I feel that you never know. And I think a lot of times, when I walk into somewhere, so with my brands, with Core Bubbles, it starts Chandon, which is a sparkling wine. It's the sister brand to Moet. It's made exactly the same way, champagne method, same grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Meunier, except it's made in Napa versus being made in Champagne, France. So they can't be called champagne, but it's our stepping stone. It's our entry level. So, I'll have people say, I can't, champagne doesn't move here. So then I said, well, what about brunch? Do you do sparkling? And I always say, give me 3 months. All I need is 3 months. And in 3 months, you can really gauge if that product's going to work for you. And we start small. And then you come in, you try it. We do staff trainings, multiple staff trainings. Because I feel like sometimes you have to have that, you always have to have liquid to lips. But it takes a couple of times for your staff to really get a brand and to really kind of relate to it and build a relationship with that brand. And then we sit and we start making cocktails with it. And maybe we say, listen, we're going to do a happy hour. We're going to do a dinner. Right now with the pandemic, it's difficult. We can't do those type of events and those tastings. But that's how we would build that business to help you. Not only you're going to take the product in, but to help you sell through it. And next thing you know, like, you're selling sparkling like crazy that you were never selling before. And then you have that option to build up and to now have a champagne offering. And we think of ideas. How would champagne work? How can we make champagne? Like champagne and fried chicken.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
fantastic.
Champagne and fried chicken. That's what you got to do.
Champagne
Is that
and
a
French
thing?
fries.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
After the brisket
Champagne-
thing, we'll talk. Champagne and fried chicken. That's
Champagne
dinner.
and fried chicken, champagne and onion rings, champagne and French fries are huge. The pairings, like
I didn't even realize that was a
umami.
thing.
There's so much that you can do with champagne. So a lot of times I'll sit with the chef of a place too. I'm like, let's talk. Let's do a pairing, and we'll offer a pairing and we'll have a feature card on the menu, on your bar, or everything's QR codes. But there'll be a feature where it's a glass of X, Y, and Z sparkling or champagne with this appetizer or this dish.
How much does brunch help specifically in the selling of champagne? So many places have these brunch parties on Sunday, and they really push like a Friday night, Saturday night crowd out to do brunch. And
And
majority
brunch
of
like
the-
that's relatively new too, like
Correct.
within the last 10 years.
A
right?
majority of a majority of the alcohol sales for brunch is typically sparkling. I think it's about 72% of the sales are from sparkling, whether it's Prosecco, Cava, champagne. Obviously the nightclubs and some of these bigger places are known for their champagne. I always try to I love champagne, so I'm very lucky to be in a position that I'm in. But it's a majority is sparkling.
And I think also, too, we saw a rise of drinks that were prepared in coupe glasses, topped with champagne, over the course of the last few years, too, which adds a whole nother nice dynamic to it.
You love that coupe glass.
I do.
You
I
do.
do. I'm sorry. I almost feel like
Big on glassware.
we're going to have this, like, roaring 20s again when we finally get through this vaccination situation where we can go back out again. And I was just telling my girlfriend, I said, you know what? I'm so pumped that we're together like this, where we're kind of just like shut down on the couch we've actually been on the couch together 3 times as long as then we were in a relationship out of the couch. So what I was saying to her was, we haven't gone on
You
dates.
need to find some things to do.
We don't know what that's like. You know what I mean? Well, no, I'm obviously we do things, but I'm just saying that once we're back out to be able to go out and do fun things, it's like a whole nother side of the relationship. And I wonder how many other people are doing things similar like that or feel that way, where it's like, God, I can't wait to go out and do this again, or I can't wait to go out and eat like a regular fucking person. Like, I want that back. So,
And I think the people that are going out, they're looking for those new experiences, and that they're so used to just being trapped at home. They're not going out to eat every day. They're not going to work where they're buying lunch every day, so they have a little bit more disposable income. So now when they are going out, they're willing to upsell and buy that nicer bottle of wine or that nicer bottle of champagne, and they're not afraid to spend $15, $20 on a cocktail. Think about all the people when you're in the city, the cost of drinks in the city. I work with reps out in the city, and my bill's $500. I have the same exact thing in Westchester or out in Long Island, or forget even upstate. Upstate, it's like $2. It's such a price difference. I think people are a little bit more inclined to spend, and they want that experience. So where I fall in is I'm trying to sell that experience now. I'm trying to teach the reps to have that experience, and let's sell an experience. To go is a really big opportunity right now. So we're trying to work and build on to go opportunities where you're having this experience at home, whether it's via Zoom, Zoom classes and webinars are huge. I'm working with someone to do something for Valentine's Day. It's Galentine's, they call it, where it's a sampling. So we're tasting through our sparkling portfolio, and they'll have a charcuterie platter with that. And then we just talk and, shoot the shit and talk about what makes sparkling different from champagne and why trade up.
And you're saying this is over Zoom?
So it's usually over Zoom, Zoom or Microsoft Teams.
And this is within company, or?
So I work with my accounts with the restaurants. So the sales rep will tell me the opportunity or just relationships that I have with friends in the business, and they'll say, hey, would you be willing to do X, Y, and Z? I'm like, yeah, why not?
In that event, then, are you mailing a sampling box to somebody, or?
So the restaurant sets that up fully. So we give them, we give them like little tchotchkes that they can have in there. Moet has these really great golden goblets. So we do things like goblets. Sometimes there's T-shirts, sunglasses, things that we would utilize if we were doing an in-house promotion, a giveaway, a takeaway. And the restaurant itself puts together the box, and the guest goes and picks that up from them.
Considering that the wintertime, at least in our Northeast area here, is completely different than the summertime, you've already been talking within the company how to survive through the winter and keep sales going on. And I would think that you're really talking about the summertime, though, and really how to kill it at this point, because we kind of expect to see what we saw last year, where everyone's outside.
But earlier.
At this point, yeah, correct. And are those talks kind of already taking, fruition, where we're saying, all right, this is how we're going to attack the summer? Are there grand plans and things that we should be seeing within our restaurants that?
Yes. So on my side, from a business and supplier side, we kind of see our plan a year out, which is a new approach. Sometimes, we had to change. You can't become complacent. Like even in a restaurant, you always have to change, because our days are changing. Everything is changing in our world around us every single day. So we look at things, and I present to our sales force quarterly. So we know that coming in March, we have X, Y, and Z program. Then we know, okay, once mid-February is here, we want to start talking about spring and the opening of the outdoor. People are going to go outside. How are we going to be able to get our brands front and center? Brunches. Brunches are big. So what are we starting to do? I'm starting to focus on the brunch at home occasion. So I want to work with restaurants that are going to say, hey, this is Chandon Rosé, it's our sparkling. We're going to do a brunch pairing. And then here's a card with QR code. Here's some menus. This will take you to the link so that you can find out more about the brand. Here's some recipes of batch cocktails that you could do at home utilizing the sparkling. And then hopefully that'll lead us so we're front and center. It's also the first time that we've ever done like a multi-brand approach. So what we're doing, it's a full 360 visibility. So whatever you're seeing at the retailer, at your liquor stores, those brands will be marketed onto our on-premise as well. So for the first time, our off-premise and our on-premise are aligned with the same exact program for visibility. So you're scrolling, you go into your local liquor store, you see the display, Chandon, Moet, Veuve Clicquot. You're like, and you see it everywhere. It's in the cold box. It's on the shelf. There's a full case display. Next thing you scan the QR code because it's like, oh, save money. You answer the questions. Next thing you know, you go to your local restaurant. What's on the menu? Those brands or one of those brands is on the menu. Then you're on social media because, our phones, Big Brother's always watching. All of a sudden, you're seeing pop-up ads for these brands. And then you're seeing the ad on television. It's this full digital it's in your face that it's going to have those brands. So we're looking at it in that perspective. So brunch, when warmer weather, brunch to go, picnics to go will be really, really big. Movie nights, doing things like that.
And we've discussed in the past as well.
You know we're all going to get hit with that ad right after. Like when we're done talking, you're going to pick up your phone and it's going to be right there.
Scroll through
it.
I
think I'm gonna
because she said it out loud.
I think I'm going to go get some beef Clicquot and make some fried chicken.
We discussed also, though, and you were, I think, using it at some point where you were using the geotag fencing to be able to target somebody.
We did some geofencing stuff.
So although using the QR code is free and people are using QR codes now because they're here, I'm pointing at the table.
They're all geotagged, though. Everything is geotagged.
So you guys are already advertising to people that are going into probably brunch spots anyway and targeting those people.
And I think right now it is, I can't speak directly for the supplier because that's more on the supplier side, but, a lot of it is collecting the data. If you scan the QR code, it takes you to the perfect gift and it'll say save $10 on the purchase of X, Y, and Z. Now you're in your store, you're entering your information, your age, and now they're getting all the data that they need, the demographics of the shopper,
Sure.
you know, who's going to be more inclined. And everything is digital, you know, and it's a way we have to teach our older consumers, you know. My dad doesn't even own a cell phone. You know, we're trying to teach the older consumer, hey, gone are the days of the takeaway paper coupon, or gone are the days of the paper, you know, the paper menu. Now everything is digital. You have to go on Facebook Pop. Like, you have to learn how to, like, turn the computer on. You know, everything that we're doing now is digital.
How many accounts have you walked into through your lifetime being in the accounts and just seeing that lack of knowledge that the digital era is here and it's starting to take over, and some guys that were just stuck in the old and refuse to conform to the new? And is that something that kind of hurts every business, or are there some businesses that just doesn't affect at all? And
There are some businesses that I think they're such well-oiled machines that they'll probably never do digital. They'll never do takeout. You know, they have their set clientele. They've been around forever. I have seen so many accounts that don't partake in social media that now with the pandemic are going and on social media because it's the only way that they'll survive. You know, it's something that I've talked to accounts till I was blue in the face before the pandemic. You know, when I was a rep 8 years ago, it was something that, you know, you have to, it's free advertising. You know, you're paying all of this money, but you could be doing your own content. And I always got the same thing. Oh, I don't have time. I'm too busy. I don't have time. Well, who's your head bartender? Who's your hostess? Like, assign 3 people. You know, can chef take some photos? Assign 3 people in your establishment, and they're kind of the gatekeepers of your content. You know, set some guidelines, and then how many times do you sit there in the bar? There's nobody. They're at lunch. You know, instead of them, they're on their phones anyways. So
Right.
Why not just say, hey, listen, let's do this, or maybe throw them an extra couple dollars. You know, instead of paying this marketing company. But it's so important to go digital.
I actually annoy them at the end of the night because a lot of times we're done and they think it's time to clean up, and I'll make them say, don't break down the bar yet. We're gonna make a few TikTok videos first.
And it's, you know,
and we
it's
spend
crazy,
the next
but it
half hour
works.
doing that.
It works. And even if you make, you know, if you have a competitive staff, I think a lot too in the hospitality business. You know, I started in the restaurant business, oh my gosh, in 1997. And I think it's so different seeing people from then to people now. I think a lot of people go into the bar business. They're like, I just want that quick dollar. They don't want to do the work for it. People are lazy, you know, and I think we have to, like, get them out of it. And if you have a competitive team, you know, whoever makes the most posts, this is a new brand that we're selling. Whoever gets the most likes in the next 2 weeks on a post.
I think you tried that for a while, right?
You have an internal contest
Yeah.
with them, and then, you know, maybe they win a bottle or something.
We try to do that all the time, and we'll see half the staff kills it, and a couple just don't do it at all, and then we kind of know who's
making the
It's a
effort.
team play, but it's a
yeah.
team. At the end
You
of the
can
day,
kinda
you have
see
to be
what's
a
going
team
on.
player. Yeah.
internal
sure.
competitions work all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, we used to do them at Black Bear. Whoever had the high sales gets an extra $50 at the end of the night
Well,
on a Friday or Saturday.
You either get your sales up. It works twofold because you get your sales up, and you also identify who's not invested or who's not.
Sure,
But
completely.
before we go, I want to tack back a little bit. Some of you said when we switched to go, and to go became a major player with the COVID thing, which it did obviously for restaurants too. Made a big difference over the summer, especially before we were able to open up. I had a huge, I was very confused by the moves a lot of distributors made early on, because there was a big rush for everybody to lay off all the staff. I'm not talking about just distributors, literally everybody. Restaurants, even outside the restaurant industry, like everybody just laid off everybody, and everybody was unemployed the first 2 months. And then pivots started happening. We kind of figured out, started how to navigate and stuff like that. But that to-go sales stuff came out pretty quickly. And I got very frustrated with distributors locally that continued to hold layoffs on a lot of the sales, especially the reps. And I was like not able to get things we needed to get because we needed to pivot. So we've changed obviously several times, but we made a quick pivot. Okay, I need as much stuff as packaged for to go as I could possibly get in here in the initial thing, because I'm not sure how we're doing this, but I know I can sell like a small bottle of wine, right? Like let's say I want to sell a whole bottle of wine is harder to sell than one person ordering a burger but might buy like a little bottle. But I can't talk to anybody because they laid off all the reps. And I'm like, who do I talk to? And then I will throw this name out, like my boy Derek. You know Derek, right? He always like helped me out, and even now I'll still text him. He's still laid off, and I'll still text him, and he'll still help me, whatever.
And again, I think that kind of comes into laziness as well. Like, you know, when I was furloughed at that time, I was a manager. So my team, like, we still spoke at my team of guys, like, I adore them. Like, they're my family, and you know, those guys are so customer service driven that even if they had an account call them, they're like, listen, I'm furloughed, but let me help you, connect you to like customer service, or here's the information.
Right.
But again, I think it comes into laziness. The mentality was kind of like, well, I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. I don't even know if I'm coming back to a job.
Right.
A lot of that, I know within us, everything was being relayed to the directors. So everything was getting filtered to the directors.
And they were
so
probably
the
getting
directors,
overwhelmed. Yeah,
and a lot of times, you know, the directors, they're not in the streets, so they don't really know the accounts. But the reality was we couldn't bring people back because there were no sales coming. There were no sales coming in. And to give you a perfect example, I have a sales rep that I'm very close with, and they have a killer territory in the city. I mean, this territory brings in probably close to $5 million in sales on just our portfolio, just our brands alone, our Moet Hennessy brands. Forget about the other side of Empire. And this year, in 2020, that exact territory did $330,000 in sales. So it's a really big, you know, so you still have salaries that you need to pay. Our customer service was still working. The drivers were still working. HR, you know, more of those office people, business managers like myself, they were all still working, but it was the people in the street, you know, for safety, they weren't working, but as there's also no business coming in.
Do you think there was a good amount of sales potentially lost by not having the representation? Because now it's kind of we've settled in, but
yes and no. I think, and I say no for the reason that I think so many people were just trying to figure out how they were going to keep the lights on, that they were sitting and going through the product that they had. So maybe you've been sitting on the same flavored vodka for 6 months. Now all of a sudden you're like, shit, I need to come up with something creative. I need to move this out. And even if I charge $5 a drink and I get 20 drinks out of that bottle, that's still $100. You know,
Right.
So I think it was people weren't buying. And again, it's back to the reps. It's back to the reps making commission. You know, if you are only buying one bottle of vodka for $32 and the rep's commission is 3%, what is he really making on that bottle? Like,
Right.
It doesn't make any sort of sense. They have to move cases in order to really in order to see anything.
might not even be worth it for the reps to
Yeah.
come back, even for the rep side.
Yeah, and we didn't bring back a lot. I mean, sadly, a lot of people were not brought back. I mean, I want to say, and I could be wrong, about 50% of our company was not brought back. And you had guys that were in the company for 20 plus years. That was their life, and they were big writers, and they just weren't brought back. And these people have families.
Yeah.
You know, I had to reapply for my job. You know, we were furloughed, and it was like, okay, listen, we're only there's 25 of you, we're bringing 14 of you back. You know, and I had choice. Like, you guys know me, I am a very vocal person. Like, I am just not a wallflower at all. Like, I say what I need to say. And it was frustrating, you know. I have 2 small kids at home, and I'm like, you know, you guys blow all this smoke up my ass. Like, you say that I'm good at what I do, but I have to send my resume and re-interview and reapply. And, you know, and then next thing you know, you're hearing that your colleagues are getting verbal offers, which they weren't supposed to. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been here longer than this guy, and he got a verbal offer. And then you're like, shit, I'm not getting my job back. And there was a lot of that going on. And, you know, and I had my choice words. I'm like, listen, buddy, like, I'm not someone's second choice. Like, either you want me to come back or not. And again, I was blessed. I was lucky. I came back in a bigger role. And I guess that was the plan for me. But
So with all the data that now exists, I feel like it's all thrown off with COVID, because like you just said, you're talking about a territory that's worth $5 million into 330,000. That skews all the numbers on all the charts. And it's not like you can just go back and look at pre-COVID numbers necessarily anyway, even into the future, considering we're in a whole different ball game now, and it's no longer the same as it once was.
Yeah, like estimate how much of the portfolio has been eliminated, for lack of a better word.
What do you mean?
Like
Sales in general.
no, like the
territory.
businesses don't exist anymore, right? So
And it's
that
always
kind of thing.
changing, and that's the thing. It's constantly changing. Right now, our New York City, our reps for the boroughs on premise, they're pretty much just home. They're surviving. They're having phone calls, with their accounts and trying to help them get through. Let's do takeout. It was a holiday season. Let's put together a holiday bundle, a Thanksgiving take-home package, New Year's Eve at home. And there have been some really great packs that were put out. But right now it's a waiting game, and we don't know. Like I can't sit here confidently and say that in 3 weeks all of those reps will still have a job.
Right, and because we're still seeing the numbers dwindle.
Yeah.
I do think that when the hiring starts though back again, it will be back towards summer when everyone's outside
Yeah, we'll
ordering and
get
going
back to
for
the
booze
positive.
again.
I'm thinking
And
Yeah.
about
What-
this the summer. We got our projection is we have about 2 months until we get back to the nice weather and we start pushing again for the summer. And we're very excited about the spring, summer of this year because we'll be able to go back outside in April and not July. So you get that extra 3 months.
And it's going to be bigger and better than ever before.
And I feel like
This is gonna be the best
I feel like
outdoor
people
season.
are ready to get back outside.
I think we also know what to expect a little bit more.
For sure.
Kind of, when the pandemic hit, everyone was trying to figure out, like, how do I have my outdoor set up? How am I going to make this work? Time constraints. There was so much that we were all just trying to figure out together. And I think everyone has kind of found their niche and everyone's perfected what was wrong. It was like 2020 was like the trial run
Right.
of what greatness is
now
going
we
to be
know
for
what we're
this
gonna
year.
do. Let's execute it.
For sure.
What words would you have for reps that are going to be getting onto their feet as summer does come and how to be successful in their job?
I would definitely say you have patience. You have to have the patience for it and be prepared. Like you always have to be prepared and have a plan, whether it's your plan A, B, C, D, because things aren't always going to go the way you would like for them to go. But it's really being able to adjust and don't be set in stone. Like I'm a creature of habit. I like things a certain way. You have to be able to adapt, and you have to be okay with that. Just because you don't get a sale or someone tells you no, because it's going to happen as restaurants are starting to get back on their feet. Someone's going to tell you no, but it's not no. It's just not right now. Like I always just say no is just short for not right now. Like revisit it. Why do you think they said no? Like help that person, help that account move through what they have. And that's a conversation I give my old rep. Like that's something that I tell my old reps. Like, listen, I know right now you're not getting the sale. How can you help them move through what they have? Why don't you help them with their beverage program? Add a little value on how they can make money. Help them with social media. Send them digital content so that, hey, you guys are sitting on a bunch of Moet or you guys are sitting on a bunch of Belvedere. Here's some beauty shots. Here's some hashtags. Here's some social media content that you guys can post. But be willing to adapt, and you have to be flexible.
What are you most excited for this year, this summer, brand wise?
We are launching a new kind of brunchy style sparkling. So I'm super excited for that. And I think a lot of what I get to do is the creative part. So the supplier will say, these are your goals. This is what you need to work on. This is somewhat the program. And I get to kind of make that my own and pitch it. So I'm really looking forward to doing the creative and looking at things instead of as a sales approach, more of a marketing, being that we can't do these tastings and these big events we used to. How do I help you guys with the marketing aspect? So now you're not paying a marketing team to help you. Like, how can we add value?
Is this sparkling you're talking about the one that goes with the fried chicken?
No.
Okay.
This is more of a brunchy, but we can definitely sit and talk about. I always drink Veuve Clicquot Yellow Label with truffle fries. That's kind of one of my favorites.
Years back, Jess did put in.
What is it about the two that pair together? Because this is new to me.
So it's the flavor profile. Like some champagnes, you want something a little bit fatty because it'll cut on the acidity of the sparkling or the champagne that you're drinking. So it's really going to pull out the flavor of that fry and just pull out, like you want that saltiness and that richness to really pull out the full flavors of the champagne.
All right.
We'll have
There
to
you
come
go.
in. I'll come back and I'll bring some bubbles and we'll have some fried chicken and fries.
Sounds good.
I was going to say, years back, Jess did do the first Westchester Bullet Bar competition. and that was kind of cutting edge at that point too. But when she's talking about putting
We got
events,
hosed in that event.
yeah, when she's talking about
Because
putting
we
events
definitely had
together,
the best
though,
cocktail. But we
like
didn't
you
win.
got to just respect that because it's not just a small event. She's doing serious work over here.
Yeah, and that event was about a 3-month project. You know,
Insane.
we weren't working with a very large budget. You know, they'll say to me, "Hey, you have $2,000 to make an event happen," and then I need to pull all of my resources and say, "Okay, what account can I go to that's going to let me essentially take over their bar and their staff and everything for $2,000 or $5,000, whatever the budget is?" And you really have to work with the right person on it. There are a lot of moving pieces, and again, it's not, you know, the reps doing their part; they're not getting paid any extra, but it's the visibility, it's the marketing behind it. And people still talk that event. I just looked that up. That was in November of 2016.
Yep.
And that event we packed. It was a Monday night, and we had about 120 guests in the location on a Monday night. You know, it was a wash essentially for the account, but they got so much publicity. They got so many new people into the place. We did an ugly sweater event there this past winter as well. Not this last winter, 2019. We did a big event there that was about 150 people. Again, bar takeover. It was a multi-brand approach instead of just one brand. I mean, it was a killer event. We threw a killer ugly sweater party. You know, so I like the fact that now with my new role, I get a little bit more creative. So now I'm starting to think, what can we do outdoors? You know, maybe if someone has an outdoor space, it's a movie night where you have a projector. You know, there's different things, and it's a basket with, you know, your sandwiches and your bottle of champagne. There's so many different things that we can do.
Do you think that the budgeting is going to change a little bit, considering we
Absolutely.
didn't do anything for so long? Is there more
Absolutely.
money allocated at that point to do cool things?
I think, you know, I don't want to say that there's more or less, but we're just able to do a lot less. So I think we just have to be a little bit smarter with the budgeting, and it has to make the right sense. You kind of have to get the biggest bang for your buck now, just because we don't know. Tomorrow, we've learned that this past year, tomorrow's not guaranteed in this world. You know, we don't know with the ever-changing laws and the rules. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if the accounts will be open or if they're going to be closed. So, you know, there's always some wiggle room. I'm in charge, you know, I do that with my role too. So a lot of it's budgeting. They're like, this is your budget for the year. All right, these are like the busy months. This is kind of where I want this budget for events. Again, it's going to finding the right opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Hadjstylianos.
Thank
Got
you.
it? Crushed it?
Yeah, you crushed
Boom,
it.
locked it in.
Guys, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button because, you know, algorithms.